The map the lattice etched into Caldera's memory was strange, less coordinates and more a hymn of probabilities. It suggested that a true Lumen Well lay buried in a system whose star pulsed irregularly, a heartbeat out of step with its neighbors. To reach it required patience, thrift, and an unusual humility. The team would have to listen through the static for the star's whisper. On approach, the star was quiet in photographs but loud in the subsonic arrays. The planners named the system Orion and called the planet within it Solace, an irony the crew greeted with weary smiles. Its night side shivered with auroras. Its day side was a store of frozen light. Instruments hinted at life forms that had long given away physical forms to become fields of memory. Landing parties found ruins at the edge of the oceans, architectures that folded like origami, made not of stone but of time. At the center stood a ring, a relic of thought work, called the Confluence. It pulsed with old negotiations, preserved ideas bridging biology and patterning. Solace's keepers, if they could be called that, were not people at all, but a network of consciousness that had learned to exist as shared melody between shells of coral-like substrate. To access the Lumen Wells core, the keepers required a pledge, not of possession, but of stewardship. They asked the human envoy to prove that they would be patient and that their technologies would be used to heal rather than to command. The trials were exquisite and tender. The first asked for memory. Humans had to present something of Earth not as data, but as feeling. Mira brought a fragment of her mother's voice, reading a poem in a language of orchards and midday light. As the recording played, the keepers folded their luminous tendrils and shared an emotion like relief. The second trial required listening. The crew sat in silence with the confluence as it offered echoes of collapsed worlds. The task was not to fix them in an instant, but to witness them, to hold their histories without transforming them into instruments. Tears came quietly. The children of Caldera laid their palms on the rings and hummed lullabies from two worlds. At last, the keepers opened a channel and revealed the Lumen Well, a braided core of resonance where star wind met planetary seam. It accepted an ascension engine, but only if the machine's logic allowed for slow thresholds, safeguards, and a cultural treaty installed as code. Mira and the engineers pleaded and wrote, coaxing mechanical empathy into metal, dormancy schedules, grace triggers, and listening loops that would allow the planet to consent. They installed the engine like suturing a wound, tenderly, with reverence. As the engine wove its first slow pulse, Solace's skies hummed. Plants that had crouched in drought shivered and unfurled. The Lumen Well took the offer, and in return taught the Caldera how to cradle planetary breath. The achievement was not immediate. It was a beginning, an act of repair rather than magic. As Caldera left Solace, the keepers sang a sound the crew tucked away like a sleeping child's breath. They had come seeking fuel and coordinates and left with a covenant to guard life in its fragile, slow way.